Hey everyone! What if your savings could suddenly grow through a groundbreaking financial revolution? Welcome to Singapore's First. I'm Xing.
And I'm Jaan. Today, we're diving into the stories behind two landmark IPOs that changed the game for Singaporeans. They are the Singapore Bus Services and Singapore Airlines initial public offerings. For those who might not be familiar, an IPO or initial public offering is when a company first offers its shares to the public on the stock market, allowing regular people to buy a piece of the company and potentially share in its profits.
Imagine the excitement on the trading floor in 1978 as the SBS IPO launched. For the first time, Singaporeans could invest their CPF savings. It was a financial revolution.
Absolutely, Xing, a DBS pioneer who played a crucial role in the SBS IPO, Mr. Tan Soo Nun, explains the significance of this IPO. Let's hear from him.
SBS was a memorable project because it was the first time that we have to work with CPF and the government to put together a scheme that allows Singaporeans to draw on the CPF to invest in listed securities. That in itself was a milestone. So because CPF was allowed, the issue was a huge success. The subscription was overwhelming.
It's great to hear about the success of the SBS IPO, especially with CPF being involved for the first time. The overwhelming response truly highlights how much people trusted this opportunity.
It really was, Jaan. You know, the government's decision to allow CPF to be used for buying shares was a turning point, especially for ordinary wage earners. In news reports, Singaporeans called it a marvelous move. For many people then, it felt like a once-in-a-lifetime chance to buy shares.
It's amazing to think how this strategic decision not only fueled financial growth, but also empowered ordinary Singaporeans to play a direct role in developing their public transport system.
But the journey wasn't without its, let's call it, surprises. The team thought they had everything under control when it came to allocating shares, but the morning after the subscription closed, they got an unexpected call. It was from then Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Keng Swee delivering a message that jolted Mr. Tan and his team wide awake. Let's hear from Mr. Tan about what happened.
We thought that we have completed the discussion the night before on how to allocate the shares to the different levels of subscribers. Early morning, we received a phone call to say that those who own a car cannot be given the shares. The reason was simple. Dr. Goh says that this is a public bus transport company and CPF money has been used to subscribe. So we should give the shares to those who do not own cars because they have to take public transport. And if they have to take public transport and own the shares, and if this company makes money, dividends will be paid to them. And that would, in a way, cover some of the transport costs. So therefore, he said, all those who own cars, no shares. So we had to go straight back with the lawyers and say, can we do it? And luckily, there was a provision that says that as the lead manager, we can impose any terms and conditions. Legally, we were covered. There was no outcry because we had the right to set new terms and conditions. So it's a question of managing the expectation. We informed the press about the new condition. We informed the public about how we are going to do it. Although you may not be allocated, you could be in the reserve list.
Okay, so in short, the decision was, have a car, no shares for you. But how exactly did the team manage to implement this criteria? It sounds pretty complicated.
This is where their collaboration with the Registry of Vehicles, or the ROV for short, came into play. Let's hear how they tackled this challenge.
How do we determine whether you own a car or not? We went to ROV because ROV has got the database of who owns the car. So therefore, we would allocate based on our rule, but we will also keep a number of reserve batches so that the moment the first batch allocated, we will send this list to ROV and say, can you check against your car ownership database? And then you tell us who are the ones that own cars. Assuming they come back and they say 1,000 of these names own cars, we would take out these 1,000 names. And then we would take out from the reserve, the 1,000 reserve list, and send it back in again. So this process of going back and forth eventually allow us to do the complete allocation to those who do not own a car.
That's impressive. Just imagine the level of meticulous attention given to this process.
Absolutely, Jaan. And as it is with life, dealing with tough experiences only prepare us better for what's to come. With these experiences under the team's belt, by 1985, DBS was ready to take the lead on the Singapore Airlines IPO, marking the first international IPO for a local firm.
SQ was a primary listing on the Singapore Exchange. We managed to convince SIA that DBS should be the lead manager for this international transaction. In the past, DBS would be just one of these co-lead manager. There will be an international firm that will lead the transaction. In fact, almost all transactions, if it is an international offering, there is an international bank, whether it is Goldman Sachs or whether it is SG Warburg, that will take the lead. And we will be just one of the co-lead. But in the case of SIA, we decided that we already gained a lot of experience. So we said, let's convince SIA that DBS will lead this transaction. So the milestone is that for the first time, we were leading a transaction comprising of international banks, of Goldman Sachs and SG Warburg and Daiwa and Nomura. So to DBS, this was like, wow, we have arrived, so to speak.
And yet, it wasn't all clear skies for this IPO.
An unexpected event put DBS's leadership and decision-making skills to the test. Let's find out more about what happened after the IPO was launched.
Little do we know that after we launched it, the panel crisis broke up, and that therefore obviously put a lot of pressure on us to try and manage it. I guess the lesson that we learned from this was that even the biggest banks in the world, in a crisis like this, they would turn to the lead manager for guidance, for decision. There were a lot of late night calls, a lot of discussion. Being the lead, I went around the world talking to international fund managers to sell the issue. When we were discussing whether we should postpone the issue or carry on, Eric Dopkins from Goldman Sachs says, so now you call the shot. Whatever you decide, Goldman will be with you. So we make the call. I've listened to the fund managers and reached the conclusion that yes, we may have a bit of a short-term downward pressure, but the growth potential of SIA would eventually allow the fund managers who hold long-term to make a return. So we did not cancel the issue. We went ahead. And I guess it was the right decision to go ahead.
The team navigated the crisis with decisive leadership. But what really stood out to me was Mr. Tan's attitude.
I always have this philosophy that if you hit a problem, if you hit a wall, and if you sit down and you think about it, you will find a solution. That's my philosophy. It goes back to its mission. It goes back to its role in Singapore. We were all conscious that whatever we want to do, if there is a gap, there is a way to strengthen Singapore's financial system, then there is a role for DBS.
Thank you for joining us in this episode. Today, we've journeyed through the pivotal moments of the SBS and SIA IPOs, learning about the challenges and triumphs the teams involved faced.
These stories are more than just financial milestones. They're about resilience and innovation.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Until next time, keep uncovering stories that shape our nation. My name is Xing.
And I'm Jaan. Thanks for tuning into Singapore's Firsts.